Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video for you. So today, I'm in Jersey City, just across from Manhattan in New Jersey, and we're going to have a little look at this place behind me, which is Departed Souls Brewing Company. Now, these guys are actually the former local brewery of my friend Dave, who you've seen in a few videos. He tells me these guys do some really good stuff, so he's dropped me here while he goes and has a work meeting. So we're going to have a little look around and taste some of their beers. We'll do as we always do, and hopefully this is another interesting out and about video. So let's get started on this one. Departed Souls Brewing Company in Jersey City, New Jersey, here in the northeastern US. Let's get on. So yeah guys, this was the little sign I was just stood in front of, but you can see we're kind of on this street. There's a lot of construction going on in Jersey City at the moment, so a lot of these buildings are very fancy and very new and things like that. But yeah, there's another brewery just over there which is called Prato Brewery, but yeah, this is the entrance. In here they've got a bakery as well, Prato Brewery. So yeah, you come in here, and then Departed Souls Brewing is right here. This is quite an interesting, quite funky little place, I have to say. So yeah, a lot of folk are watching the American football today, which is quite interesting. But yeah, you can see it's a really funky little place, this one. Lots of scarves and things like that. Lots of merchandise and stuff, which we'll look at a little bit later on. And yeah, the other part of the brewery is kind of the brewery and things is just kind of up and over here. So yeah, really nice little setup actually. But we'll go and have a little look at what's on the tap, and we'll get another beer ordered. So yeah, it's awesome. Alright guys, well let's get started with tasting some beer then here at Departed Souls. So the first beer we're going to have a look at is a style that I very much enjoy. It's also a style that you're seeing more and more of these days, but this is one of only a handful of American brewed examples of this style that I've tried so far. So the one we're going to have a look at is a very good place to start. This is the Bianca Toscana. It comes in at 5.4% ABV, and this one is an Italian Pilsner. So remember, the Italian Pilsners are just a little bit more hoppy and more bitter than their German counterparts, of course, and of course the Czech ones as well. But yeah, very nice style of beer. This one is brewed in collaboration with Prato Brewery, who apparently are just next door to here. So I might need to go and have a little look at them while I'm in the area. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect, this one's poured a lovely kind of pale golden straw colour. You know, one or two bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. The head has kind of faded down a little bit since it was poured. It did have about a finger of a frothy, I would have said kind of perfect white, ivory coloured head. But it looks nice. You can see crystal clear in terms of its colour. I think this pour that I have might be 1 American pint. I'm not quite sure. I did want to get a slightly smaller size than that, but you know, they were going to have to charge me. If I wanted less, they were going to have to charge me for the big size anyway. So it's just kind of how it goes. A bit weird like that sometimes. But anyway, let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and see what it's all about. Nothing surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So let's do it. Oh yeah, that smells really nice. As I've said many a time before with these beers, what you'll often find with American lagers is that they're very authentic in terms of like their flavour profile and stuff like this, but they'll just be like a little bit different in their mouthfeel and things. So that's always worth bearing in mind. But yeah, for me, this is pretty damn authentic actually. So the backbone of this beer, fresh white bread crust for sure. You've got a little bit of like, you do have a little touch of like a wholemeal brown bready character in there. Soft white bread, little touch of, you do get a little bit of that Pilsner malty dryness in the back of the nose too, in the top of the back of the nose. But then yeah, you've also got that really nice, you do also have a really nice kind of, I would say, how would you say, you've got a nice little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive-y, biscuity sweetness. I guess to Americans you'd want to say more of a kind of like, kind of cookie-like sweetness. You always get this from Pilsner malt. There's always a little bit of that biscuity sweetness for sure. But yeah, for me, the hoppy side of things in this is really nice as well. I think we said everything we need about the malty base, other than that it might be a little touch crackery. So yeah, the hoppy side of things, you've got a nice little touch of earthiness in there, a little bit of a smooth earthiness. There's a wee touch of a herbal character in there too. A good little bit of floral aromaticity, little touch spicy. I'd be very curious to know whether they're using Italian hops in this one. They are obviously produced in the north of Italy. But then, yeah, you've also got a nice little bit of a kind of wet, grassy note to this one. The grassy character has a little touch of zestiness to it, which I think is great. So yeah, aroma-wise, this is pretty damn nice. The fruity side of things is pretty much as you would expect for the style. You've got like a little bit of an oily kind of pear, a little bit of like sultana, a little bit of sultana, a little bit of a kind of white-green grapey sort of thing, and then it's kind of like, it's got a little touch of gooseberry to it and a little bit of a kind of lemony-limey sort of thing. So aroma-wise, this is really nice and pretty damn authentic to what you would expect of an Italian-brewed Italian Pilsner. So, I think this is going to be quite nice. So this one was the Bionda Toscana, the Tuscan Blonde, I guess we can call it. If you want to translate it to English, a blonde beer from Tuscany. 5.4% Italian Pilsner, this one, brewed in collaboration with Prato Brewery next door. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers.
Right, coming up with the auto owners halftime report. Kelsey Riggs, Eddie Royal, Eric McMahon, get you caught up.
Yeah, that's pretty nice actually. Pretty damn solid, in fact.
The opener, Louisville, came back big time last night in Atlanta. An update on the Wahoos in Nashville. That was a close one last time we checked.
Gives you everything you would want of the style. Cannot complain about that at all. You've got a lovely little bit of. You've got a lovely little bit of just floral bitterness that lingers into the aftertaste with this one, and for me, that's the defining characteristic of an Italian Pilsner. The Czech ones tend to be a little bit more kind of yeasty and dry, and the malt base, the German ones tend to be a little bit more kind of like crisp and really just crisp and dry in their hoppiness. But yeah, the Italian Pilsner has a little bit more sweetness in the back bone, but then it has a little bit more bitter into the aftertaste as well. This is really nice. This gets a big thumbs up for me. A style I really enjoy actually. So yeah, for me, this is nice. We'll just break the beer down and describe it more in depth as we always do. The backbone of this beer, it's very much a kind of fresh white bready bread crust, absolutely. Lovely little bit of fresh white bready bread crust in there. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woodiness coming out of the beer, which is great. Then you've also got a little bit of you do get a bit more of a kind of crackery layer on top of the bread crust. Above that, there's a little bit of a sweet kind of wholemeal brown bread, and then you've got a nice kind of white bready characteristic in this one too. So lovely kind of thicker white bready characteristic too.
Beautiful job by Nate Carsel.
So yeah, the way that goes together is really, really quite nice actually. Malty side of this one's really good. On top of that kind of white bready character, you get a little circle in the middle of your palate, so you can feel there's a little bit of a straight up kind of sweeter McVitie's digestive biscuit in there. As you move out toward the edges of your palate, you can feel that the biscuit's a little bit more concentrated in the middle of your palate, which is the alcohol, of course. But as you move further out, you get a little bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of graininess to it. But at the back of that front third of your palate, it's all about the Pilsner malt. So you get that nice Pilsner malty dryness out of this one. But yeah, this is really nice. On the back there of your palate, the flavours are similar. You've got the bread crust, which is a bit drier, the cracker, which is again a little bit drier. Then you've got the wholemeal brown bready layer, which is a bit lighter and more airy, the white bready layer, which is a bit lighter and more airy. Then you can feel the dryness of the Pilsner malt just going over the top of that, which is great. So yeah, on top of all of that, you get the yeasty character out of the beer. And for me, the yeasty side of things is really, you can feel it's got this more kind of dense, sweet brown bready character to it. It's almost as if it's wrapped in honeycomb a little bit actually, which is nice. So yeah, dense, kind of sweet brown bready character, and there's a little bit of a kind of honeycomb note to it, but definitely back third of your palate, the flavour's taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down a little bit. So yeah. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really nice. On the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've got a really nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it's a little bit more kind of herbal, I would say. Then you reach the kind of floral aromatic part at the front corners of the palate. It does have a little bit of floral spice to it, which is quite interesting. I'd be curious to know what hops in this one. It could be something a little bit higher in alpha acid because it just feels that little touch more spicy. But round the front curve of your tongue, you've got a little bit more of a lighter grassy sort of thing, like a wet, freshly cut grass type vibe. And then on the front third of your palate, it's all about the fruity side of things. So yeah, front third of your palate, you can feel there's a nice little bit of fresh white bready bread crust underneath. A little bit of a crackery note in there, sweet brown bread on top, then you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity notes come out of the beer, and these are exactly as you would have expected from the aroma. So for me, at the back of that front third of your palate, it's got a little touch of a more, it has got a little bit of a more kind of like sultana type note to it, but as you move further forward, it's got a big sort of oily peary character. Then as you push forward toward the front of that front third of your palate, it does actually have a little bit of a kind of lemony, limey type citrusy note, a little bit stronger actually. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really nice in this one. It's a thumbs up from me. Flavour profile wise, really good to the style, and it is authentic to what you would find in Italy itself. Tipo Pils from Birrificio Italiano would be the kind of staple, if you like, this one. Lovely, lovely Pilsner beer. But yeah, mouthfeel wise,
The way that he finished the season in 2 of his 4 starts over 330 yards, and it's just not the case right now.
yeah, mouthfeel wise, for me, this one is quite light bodied. Carbonation is really nice and smooth, but it does have a bit of crispness to it as well. A little bit of a wetter mouthfeel in a sense, as I say. In terms of IBUs, I think this one is maybe 35, could even be 40 IBUs. These beers, of course, the Italian Pils are just that little bit more hoppy and bitter. But then, yeah, the malt base is a bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, a little bit of sweetness on top. Then you've got a wee touch of fruity character as well. Quite an oily fruity note in this one. But yeah, really nicely done beer, this. Nothing unusual about it when you consider what style it is, and a very nice find. So yeah, this was the Bionda Toscana, 5.4% Italian Pilsner, brewed here at Departed Souls Brewing Company in collaboration with Cattle Brewery, who are just next door basically. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Let's go and see what else we can find. Catch you in a second. So yeah guys, you can see the brew kit is just up here at the back of the facility basically. So yeah, you can see they've got a nice kind of 2 vessel system there. I think they've got their hot water tank over the back, if I'm not mistaken, and there you can see they've got all their different kind of fermentation vessels and stuff like that, all colour coded. I think a lot of their imagery seems to be based around the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I think this is the 4 colours of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is quite cool. But yeah, they've got another thing over here. There you can see the thing there. They specialise in gluten-free beer, apparently, which is a big kind of health fad in America at the moment, actually. But yeah, they've got their, not sure if this is, it's a canning line, not a bottling line. But yeah, quite a nice little setup they've got here, just at the back of the tap room. So yeah, not sure what they produce a year in terms of litres and things like that. But yeah, nice little setup, like I said. Alright guys, well, time for our second tasting then here at Departed Souls. So we're going to go for something a wee bit different, and this is a style I haven't tried too many examples of in the US in fact, so this should be quite interesting. And this is also one of their flagship beers. So this one is called the Velociraptor. It comes in at 8% ABV, and they describe this one just as a Belgian ale, but I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be a triple just by the appearance and the aroma and stuff like that. So yeah, when this beer poured, it had just over a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. Lovely kind of rich, slightly ambery golden colour, this one. But yeah, it's kind of what you'd expect. It's got a little bit of natural haze to it. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty damn nice. So yeah, quite happy with that. Looks good. So let's have a wee look at the aroma then. Aroma-wise, it is very much what you would expect from a Belgian triple. Of course, the triples were the Abbey beers, produced by the Trappist monks and things like this. So, you know, you can call this a Belgian strong golden ale, technically speaking, but yeah, personally I think it is more along the lines of a Belgian triple. Yeah, but aroma-wise this is really nice, and it gives you everything you would expect of that style. So remember that generally speaking with Belgian beers, they tend to be more yeasty forward, and the main brewing technique in these is that they tend to add like candy sugar and things like that into the brew, which is why you get a higher ABV, but you don't get the same kind of thickness in the mouthfeel that you would from, say, a 9% Imperial Stout or whatever. You always get a bit of a lighter mouthfeel with more carbonation from these beers because of that sugar addition. But yeah, let's break down this aroma and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So for me, the aroma of this beer, the backbone is a really nice kind of fresh white bready bread crust. Yeah, absolutely fresh white bready bread crust. There's a little bit of woodiness in there and a little bit of a crackery character. But then you also have a lot of kind of big, doughy, yeasty notes in there. You do get a little bit of that kind of sort of banana bread and slightly clovey character out of this one, but it's a very sweet banana bread, of course. As I've often said, American beers, for me, and American bread, the American palate, generally speaking, is a lot sweeter than the European palate is. So for me, yeah, the bready character in this one is really quite sweet. You've got that big, doughy, bready, yeasty kind of thing. And yeah, on top of the kind of bready character, on top of the doughy, bready yeast, you start to get the kind of sugary notes out of this one. So there's a little bit of like a McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing going on. You also have a good little bit of like a honey as well, like a kind of honeycomb type note. I don't know if I would go as far as saying straight caramel with this one, which I was a little bit surprised about considering the colour of the beer. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. Three, any adjunct you put in will affect the colour of the beer too. And four, any barrel aging you do will affect it too. So yeah, maybe the candy sugar or whatever that they've used in this one is just that little bit darker, and it's probably responsible for part of the colour of this one. So yeah, that's worth thinking about with this beer. But yeah, aroma-wise, the malty, yeasty side of things is pretty nice actually. I think we're going to get a bit more complexity out of it in the flavour though. On the hoppy side of things, and remember, Belgian triples are not the most hop-forward kinds of beer, but you still get some hoppy character out of this one. Lovely sort of smooth earthiness in there, little touch of herbal quality, and then you've also got a nice little bit of floral aromaticity and grassiness in there, but not too much. It's quite a wet green component that you're getting in this beer. So on the fruity side of things, as we mentioned earlier, the beer has this kind of underlying kind of banana bread type quality to it, which is mainly due to the yeast. They will be using a Belgian yeast in here. Reminds me of Westmalle actually. But yeah, on the fruity side of things from the hops, it's what you'd expect. There's a little bit of sultana for sure, you know, dry white, green, grapey raisins. You do get a lot of oily pear out of this one. Definitely some dates as well, like dry dates. A little bit of a kind of sweeter, oily pear as well. I think I've said that. A little bit of a kind of fresh green apple sort of thing too. And yeah, I think that describes the fruity character in this one, to be honest with you. But this is really nice actually. I do like how this pieces together. Yeah, so this one, I think we've covered everything we need to say about the aroma of this beer. Let's have a taste and see what it's all about. This one is the Velociraptor, an 8% Belgian style ale as we're calling it. For me, this is a Belgian triple. I can definitely say that from the aroma. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål, cheers, Prost, santé. That's pretty nice actually. Very smooth, almost slightly creamy actually. And then into the aftertaste, you get the kind of candy sugar sort of things that you expect of this style. It's not often that you get a Belgian kind of triple on tap, so this is quite an interesting experience for me as well. I've only really had this beer style on the bottle, and the level of smoothness that you get out of this one actually reminds me of the barrel-aged version of the Delirium Blonde, which is really interesting. Yeah, this is really quite interesting from that perspective too, but it's a lovely beer. That's the main thing to take away. This one is really nice, like a very smooth, bready, almost creamy Belgian style triple. So yeah, backbone of the beer then. For me, the backbone of this beer is a lovely kind of fresh, white bready bread crust. On top of that, you have a really nice kind of, you've got a little bit of a crackery note, particularly toward the front of that middle third of your palate. Then on top of that, you get this kind of sweet wholemeal brown bread, then a fluffier white bread, and then above all of that, you've got a nice kind of sponge cakey sort of thing. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really nice. Yeah. For me, the way that the bready character in this one goes together is really nice. Within that sort of sponge cakey layer I was talking about, that's where you get the sort of sweet banana and almost very slightly clovey type flavour. So it's like a banana bread or a banana like sponge cake type thing that you're getting out of this one. And that lingers into the aftertaste. That's what really gives you the kind of candied sugar type thing out of this beer. So yeah, that's really nice, and as I say, that gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that. On top of that, you start to get some of the brown sugary notes. So for me, the base of that, the brown sugary character, is like a sweet kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality that comes out of this one. So yeah, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuity note. Then above that you get this oily circle, which is like honey. It's like honey, sort of, yeah, like a honey, kind of honeycomb type thing. And in the dead centre of your palate, you do get maybe a very slight touch of a straight up sweet Canada. But for me, the brown sugars are more along the lines of honey for sure. Yeah, I like that about this one, definitely. I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate. So on the malty, or on the back third of your palate then, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of, the flavours are quite similar, they just come out at different intensities. So you've got a lovely little bit of like a fresh, wholemeal bread crust again. You get the cracker in there, which feels a little bit drier. The wholemeal brown bready layer is a little bit lighter and more airy. The white bready layer is a little bit lighter and more airy. Then you've got the sweeter kind of like banana bread above that, which again feels a little bit lighter and more airy. And you can feel just a little bit of the drier biscuity note just creeping its way over the top. And then you've got that nice kind of yeasty note. Just, that nice kind of like yeasty note just, pardon me, getting a bit of gas off this one. You can feel that yeasty note there just sitting on top of everything else on the back third of the palate, and that's nice. So let's look at that yeasty character then, because that's a big part of the Belgian style beers. So yeah, for me, it's got a really nice kind of sweet, dense, white bready character to it. There's a little bit of a kind of like dense, sweet brown bready character within that yeast too. It's got a little bit of a woody, crackery sort of thing, and then it feels as if it's wrapped in kind of honeycomb. So that's nice too. So yeah, I do like that about this one, definitely. Back third of your palate, the flavour is taller, then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. That's nice. Hoppy side of things then. back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you push toward the front corners of your palate, it's a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic. Round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy for sure. And then, yeah, I think that's everything about the green people. And as I say, triples are not the most hop forward of beer styles. So let's have a wee look at the, let's have a little look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side from the hops. Yeah, above you get the bread crust, the brown bread, the white bread, the banana bread, all that in there. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. At the back of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of a kind of oily, peary sort of character. Sultana. Then as you move further forward, you get a little bit of a date, and then in the middle of that front third of your palate, it's like a dry apricot kind of note there. And you also have a little bit of a more, you also have that little bit of a more kind of oily, peary character sitting on top. And as you move forward toward the very front tip of the tongue, there's a little touch of gooseberry in there, and a wee bit of like a fresh green apple too. So that's really interesting. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer is quite soft and wet and kind of oily, and that is quite nice. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would say that this one is kind of pushing toward the top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. Not quite as, it's almost like not as aggressive in its carbonation as you would actually find from the bottled triples, but I might be wrong in that. They might be very smooth beers when you have them on tap. Haven't done that too often. But for me, really sweet, really oily type beer, this one. The malt base, a bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, then a bit of sweetness on top. In terms of IBUs, I think this one at most will be 15 IBUs, if that. Then you've got a lovely kind of oily, dry, fruity character coming out of this one. Really nice beer this, and definitely cool to try another different style here over in the US. But yeah, this one is the Velociraptor, an 8% Belgian style triple for me. They call it a Belgian style ale. This is one of their flagship beers here at Departed Souls Brewing in Jersey City. So let's leave it there for this one. We're going to do one more here, and I think that'll be good for us during our time. So catch you guys in a second with something else. So yeah guys, as I said earlier, they've got quite a little bit of merchandise here. You can see all the different t-shirts up on the top. So Departed Souls Brewing Company, Jersey City, Lager and Ales. The kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle type ones here. And a few other ones as you go forward. But yeah, you can get some of the hoodies here, the Departed Souls Brewing Company. Then they've got this one, the sort of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles type theme. They've got this one too, with the sort of Departed Souls and the outline of Jersey State. On the back, you've got this Departed Souls Jersey City Ales type thing. Blue ones here as well, which are similar. Then this grey one, I think, is a little bit different. This is more of a t-shirt, actually. And you can see on the back, Jersey City Lagers and Ales. They have a few kind of stickers and things. Oh yeah, we've got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles caps. We've got our nice model here. But yeah, you can get some stickers and things like that too. As I say, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme with the hop flowers, which is kind of cool. I do like that. They've got a bunch of like football scarves and stuff up behind the counter as well, which I think is quite nice. But if you come over here, you've got your lovely Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle coloured hats, and a few more t-shirts and things too. So you've got this one in the light blue. We've got this one in the blue as well. This is the beer all the bad guys want. This is nice. This is quite similar to what we saw on the hoodies, in fact, with the black one. If we go forward to the green one, this is a bit different. Drink local. Departed Souls Brewing Company. Don't know if it's got anything on the back. It's got the little New Jersey thing again. We've got a grey one here as well, which is Drink Local. And then, this is the more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles type theme again on the grey one. But yeah, they've got some glasswares and growlers and stuff like this. You can also get your kind of can cooler if you really want it. You've got a sombrero a few sort of baseball caps and things like that. But I think that's everything in terms of the merchandise and stuff, so pretty nice. Alright guys, well, time for our third and final beer tasting then here at Departed Souls. So the last beer that we're going to have a look at is one that I think could be really, really interesting, and it's a style that this brewery are known to do very well actually. So this particular beer is called Secret of the Brews. It comes in at 8.1% ABV, and this one is a blue raspberry imperial sour. So yeah, that just caught my eye right away. So as you can see, this beer poured with a lovely sort of half finger of a frothy kind of blue, candy blue, powder puff blue tinted head there. You can see the colour of this one is pretty unique. I think on the camera to you guys it actually looks like pretty green, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle green, but to the naked eye it's actually this really very kind of like dusk blue type colour. I think that's probably a fair way to describe it. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty damn nice. So yeah, this is certainly quite an interesting looking beer, this one. Remember, when it comes to sour beers, the colour of your beer is quite often dependent on what adjunct and things you're using. So yeah, the blue raspberries are having a big say in the colour of this beer. But let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what this one gives us. Yeah, this one smells like blue laces. I don't know if that's a good reference for Americans watching this video, but yeah, it is very much like this one's very much like a very strong Berliner Weisse, but with these big sort of blueberry type characters to it. For me, blue raspberry is like a more candied version of a blueberry, I would say, and you can smell that right away. This really smells for me very much like just that like candy, you know, blue lacy, something like that. I don't know what American sweet you could compare this to, but it smells absolutely lovely. Yeah. So I think stylistically, I think this one is just an imperial fruited sour, but I think stylistically it's going to be closest to the Berliner Weisses. So remember, when we talk about modern sour beers, the two German styles are the Gose and the Berliner Weisse. The Berliner Weisse is a more kind of creamy, smooth, white bready type affair, whereas the Gose is kind of similar, but it has a little bit more citricy character, and it's also a little bit salty as well. And that's the reason why I say I think this one is going to be more along the lines of like a very strong Berliner Weisse. It's definitely not a smoothie sour, you can kind of tell that. It just doesn't have enough kind of creaminess and things like that to it, but it certainly smells very nice. So let's break this down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So, backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. You've got a wee bit of a woodiness and a kind of crackery note to it as well, but not too much. It's kind of dominated by this kind of big white bready base. So for me, big kind of sweet American white bread. Like I've said in many reviews, American bread tends to be sweeter. The American types of malt that they're using, the kind of 2 rows and stuff like this, they're just always a little bit sweeter than, for example, the German crystals. So that's a recurring theme we're finding in many of these beers. You're probably bored of me going on about this by now, but yeah, lovely big sort of thick, soft, fluffy white bread in there. You can smell the kind of denser wheaty white bread on top of that as well. And there is a little touch of like a yogurty note to this one, like petit filou. It reminds me of the Munch Bunch yogurts my mum used to put in my lunchbox when I was a wee boy. I don't know what an American equivalent of this is, but yeah, like a sort of fruity yogurty sort of thing. Dave's laughing behind the camera at me trying to describe this, but yeah. Yeah, definitely a little bit of that kind of fruity, yogurty. Muller, I don't know if you get Muller in America. Muller fromage frais, something like this. Yeah, definitely a little bit of that going on. There is a tiny little hint of like a Werther's Original butter candy butterscotchy thing at 8.1% ABV. You would expect that a little bit, to be honest with you, just because of the alcohol. But yeah, I think that covers the malty side of the beer. Now, I think there will be a little touch of hop in this one. You do get a little element of earthiness, a little bit of floral character, and a wee bit of grassiness. But Yeah, there is a little bit of everything going on in there. There is a little bit of a debate amongst sour beer brewers as to what you do with hops in these beers. If you add hops into a sour beer, it will kind of conflict a little bit with the sour side of things. So back in the day with the Hoises and the Flanders Reds and so on, they would use old hops that had lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency. With the more modern sour beers, the thing you have to think about is whether the fruit adjunct is going to suppress the hoppy side of the beer anyway. So a number of sour beer brewers don't actually use hops, but you can actually argue that using a little bit of hop will add to the complexity of the beer. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. So yeah, that's worth thinking about with these ones. But for me, I think this one does have a little bit of a floral and a wee bit of a grassy character. So yeah, it's nice. On the fruity side of things, it is pretty much as you'd expect. It's that big blue candy, blue raspberry sort of thing. You do have a little touch of like a candied strawberry underneath, a little bit of like a wet blueberry and stuff. But yeah, the aroma of this one is really quite nice. As I've often said about these types of beers, they can be very simple in terms of their flavour and aroma profile, but if they are well done, they're just really nice to drink. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. This is The Secret of the Brews, an 8.1% sour blue raspberry beer. This should be quite nice. Slàinte, skål, cheers.
We got to execute. When we execute, we don't go backwards. We catch the football. We don't have penalties to score. We're playing sloppy, and we got to stop the run right now.
Ooh. I'll tell you something. This beer is one. It mellows out, the flavour mellows out really nicely, but I'm not the biggest fan of the impact flavour. Maybe it just takes a wee bit of time to get used to, but it has this really dark sourness to it when you first take it in. But once it mellows out, you do get a lovely aftertaste to it. That's really interesting. I think this is the first blue raspberry sour that I've ever come across, actually. I've not seen these in Europe. You know, one of my local breweries back in Sweden, Elm 11, they'd probably be one of the first ones to try this. A few other Swedish breweries I know would do some smoothie sours with it. But yeah, this is really interesting, actually. But yeah, it's definitely along the lines of like a very strong Berliner Weisse, this beer, stylistically. Quite straightforward in terms of its flavour profile, but it works. It does work really nicely. So, yeah, let's break this down then. In terms of the malty backbone with this beer, for me, you've got a really nice sort of, yeah, you have a really nice kind of brown bready bread crust in there. It has a little bit more graininess in the malt base, this one. Then you get a bit of sweet wholemeal brown bread. Then it's quite a dense white bready character that sits above that. Then you get the wheat in this one, and the wheat has a little bit more bite to it, definitely. So yeah, quite a dense bready character. But as I say, definitely Berliner Weisse-like. And then in the dead centre of your palate, above everything else, you get a little touch of that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing coming out of this one. But yeah, I think that covers the malty side of the beer. Like I said, it's quite straightforward. The back third of your palate is quite similar, except you've got some of the yeasty qualities. So yeah, the back third of your palate, the bread crust is a little bit drier. You do have a little touch of an almost crackery note to it. Brown bready layer is a little bit lighter and more airy. The white bready layer is a little bit lighter and more airy as well. But then you get a really dense, bitey, wheaty character sitting above everything else. Then you've got the yeast. The yeasty note in this one is like quite a dense, white bready character, but it's also quite peppery and quite spicy, which is interesting. And there is a wee touch of like honeycomb around it. I always get a little bit of honeycomb sweetness on the yeasty side of things. But yeah, back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. As you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, this is quite interesting. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of herbal quality, and as you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of floral and aromatic, and then round the front curve of the tongue, a wee bit lighter and more grassy, but definitely you can feel the blue raspberry adjunct in this one just pushing back against the sort of hoppy bitterness. But the hoppy style of the beer, you know, the fruity side of this beer, I think it's very much like it is. The adjunct really is pushing back against the green component of this beer, and the sour blue raspberries really do have this quite potent nature to them, so that's really lingering there in this beer. As I say, this one has quite a bit of impact flavour to it, and it's quite a dark impact flavour, but it mellows out really nicely. I do like it. I do quite like this one, I have to say. Yeah, I think we can move on to the front third of your palate then. So the border region between front and back third of your palate, there's a little bit of bready build up in there, and it's a wee bit more kind of peppery and bready, but the base, kind of like a sort of brown bready bread crust. Wholemeal brown bread on top of that, white bread. Then you get the fruity adjuncts and the fruity esters from the hops coming out of this beer. So for me, the hoppy side of things, it's more of a, it is definitely more of a kind of, it's got a little bit of like a kind of candied strawberry, almost like figgy kind of nature underneath, but then you get the really big, the blue raspberry is of course quite dominant in this one. When you first take it in, it has quite a sour hit behind the very tip of the tongue, as you would expect. And it leaves this kind of darker flavour, but it really mellows out to give you this more sort of candied flavour the further into the aftertaste that you go. But I do like that. I think it's quite interesting how that pieces together in this particular beer. Yeah, so for me, the kind of sour raspberries are really quite sour in this one, and it's different, you know. Scotland is famous for its raspberries, but the blue raspberry is a completely different animal to the regular raspberry that we would have back home in the motherland. But yeah, this is really quite unusual. Gets a thumbs up from me though. I like trying beers that are a bit more unusual like this. In terms of the mouthfeel then, just to round off, for me, it's top end to mid-bodied, bottom end to full-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth. It's got a big oily character to it actually. One of the thicker and more oily kind of Berliner Weisse type sour beers that I've come across. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think is really quite nice. Yeah, on the malty side of things, it's a bit grainy underneath. It's a bit smoother on top. Yeah, a bit grainy underneath, a bit smoother on top, and then you get a wee touch of sweetness into the aftertaste as you go with it, because it's got that little bit more ABV to it. Wee bit of hoppy bitterness, and I think the fruits are giving you a little bit of kind of bitterness and acidity to this one too, so calculated bitterness might be very low, a sort of 15-20 IBU sort of affair, but you do get a little bit more bitterness out of this beer than that, I would argue. The fruity side of things, nice and juicy, quite a bit of a dark, sour, sharp impact flavour on this one. But yeah, really interesting combination of flavours in this. So yeah, I think that rounds off everything we need to say about this one. This was the Secret of the Brews, an 8.1% Imperial Blue Sour Raspberry sour beer, our last beer here at Departed Souls in Jersey City. Let's leave it at that, and I'll give you my final thoughts on our time here at the brewery in just a second. Slangy just now. So yeah guys, they've got a nice fridge here where you can pick up some cans to take away. As is often the case though in the US, you can only really buy them in 4 or 6 packs. But yeah, up here they've got the Goop West Coast IPA, the Sayonara Sucker, which is a sour ale fruited with orange, raspberry and lime. Ghosts of the Pumpkins Past, pumpkin ale, not my thing at all. Ego is not your amigo, a Mexican style lager. I do love Mexican lagers actually. Down here they have the Red Bandana, which I can't see exactly what style that one is. It's a Mexican, an American style Pilsner actually. Funk Rock Princess, which is a Berliner Weisse with dragon fruit. Secret of the Brews, which is a blue raspberry sour ale. That could be quite interesting. Then they've got the Beyond a Toscana, which I've tried in this video, of course. Their Italian Pilsner, brewed with Prato Brewery. Then they've got the Nuggy Monster, which is a farmhouse saison. The Puppy Kisses, which is an IPA with marshmallow fluff. That sounds kind of interesting. Then the Puppies Double IPA, the Juicies IPA, the Drive Through Record, which, not sure exactly, doesn't say what style that one is. Then they've got the more of the Funk Rock Princess over there. But yeah, kind of interesting little selection here at Departed Soul. So that's your beer fridge here. Alright guys, well that's my time over then here at Departed Souls in Jersey City in New Jersey. So yeah, I had a really nice kind of 2 hours or so here. Got to try 3 different beers. We had the Italian Pilsner, the Belgian Triple, and then we had the Imperial Blue Raspberry Sour. All of them were really quite nice. The Blue Raspberry Sour was the one that was most unusual for me. But yeah, it was pretty good value, I have to say. So I paid like 22 American dollars. That translates to maybe about 20 euros, something like that, 200 Swedish kroner, like 18, 19 British pounds, something like that, just for those of you watching in different places. But yeah, the only thing I would say here is that you don't really get a choice on what size of beer you try, because I would have liked to have had, you know, sort of half the volume and try a few more different beers. I found that it depends on what brewery you go to. So far in the States, like some of them will offer the small sizes, some of them won't. The other thing that's a little bit kind of annoying over here is that you have to buy a 4-pack of one beer rather than being able to buy single cans and things like that. That's just kind of how it goes in America, unfortunately. But you know, Matt behind the bar was great. He taught me through all the different styles, helped me pick out like one of their core beers and to try some of the more experimental stuff as well. I had a really nice time, you know, in terms of the quality of beer and the service and things like that I got, which are of course the most important points. Cannot fault Departed Souls. I guess I maybe just need to get used to that a little bit more in America, that you can't buy singles and you might not have the same choice over sizes and things like that, because you know, about 200 mils would do it for me in terms of a tasting and so on. But yeah, had a really nice time here, and definitely cool to tick off another New Jersey brewery. And this is of course Dave's local when he used to live in Jersey City as well. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. This was Departed Souls Brewing Company in Jersey City, New Jersey, here in the northeastern US. Till the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, and see you guys very soon.